Citizen. This is a show that's sponsored by the Lancaster County Democrats, and my name is Barbara Baier. And I'm interviewing today Eric Fott. Eric is the Nebraska State Democratic Party Communications Director. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Barb. It's great to be here.
Good.
Really.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I always start out my interviews. I know that Lincoln and Nebraskans like to get to know their neighbors, so tell us about yourself.
You bet. I've been in Nebraska now for about 5 years.
Okay.
I'm from Wisconsin originally. My parents moved here about 8 years ago, and really encouraged me. They fell in love with Omaha and Lincoln and the entire state, and really encouraged me to consider moving out here. And at first I resisted, and then finally at one point I decided to give it a shot. And I have really fell in love with the people here and the scenery and the nature and all the great things that Nebraska has to offer. There's really two passions in my life. There's many passions, but two main passions that drive my career, and that's politics and then news and the media. And I got my interest in politics at a very young age, and my mother tells the story that in 1984, on the November presidential election night, I asked to stay up late to watch the returns come in. And the two things that I remember about that are that, number one, President Reagan was reelected, but number two, I was able to stay up late and eat fruit roll-ups. So.
So you have a positive connection with politics.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think many of my peers and I in 1992 watched the presidential election, and were really inspired by what President Clinton talked about the importance of each individual coming together to work together and fix our nation's problems. And I became very engaged at that point forward in politics and government, and really trying to make a difference. I became active in campaigns. I became active in my county party at the local level, and also in the state party in Wisconsin where I was living at the time. And then I eventually worked into doing some professional political work, managing some state assembly campaigns and some other campaigns on the local and state level. The other side of my life, I started when I was 15 in radio. That's where I, grew my legs, if you will. And
at 15?
At 15.
How did that work out?
Well, it's an interesting story. At that time, we were live 24 hours a day. This was before computer automation and all of those kind of things that have affected the business today. And so I started on the weekends working from midnight to 6. I didn't even have a driver's license. My mother had to drop me off, pick me up. But I absorbed everything. I hung out. Even when I wasn't being paid at times, I just really looked at the business and learned from all the people that were around me, and I had some great people to work with. And then I worked my way up. I started having afternoons on the weekends and some daylight hours, and then I moved into the newsroom, which was a great experience for me. I was able to cover politics and government, the city council, the county board. President Clinton came to Milwaukee for a summit with German Chancellor Kohl. I was able to cover that and meet him.
How old were you when that happened?
I would have been about 19 at that point.
That's amazing.
Because at that point I had, the news director had left, and so I became the news director. And it was an incredible time. Bob Dole came to the community where I was working and was able to cover that visit as well, a political stop. And so I really enjoyed it. And then I began to do some what we would call stringer work on the national level for some national networks like CNN, NBC, AP, and some others. So, and then my life took a complete change in direction, and I'd always been interested in spirituality, and it had been an important part of my life, and I was Catholic at the time, and decided to give a shot at studying for the priesthood, and so I did that for a while.
Really? I bet a lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people do not know that. It's actually something I don't talk about very often. But it really shaped who I am today and what I do and what I believe in. So I think it is an important part of my story. It took me to New York City, where I lived for a year, studying, but also working at St. Vincent's Hospital in Greenwich Village, working with people living with HIV and AIDS. It was an interesting time in my life. I learned a lot about a lot of different people. I was just from a small town in Wisconsin, hadn't been exposed to a lot of different types of people, and so it was a tremendous experience for me. Decided that the priesthood wasn't for me, and so I came back and started working on what I would say the other side of the microphone, helping organizations tell their story through the media and through other communications and marketing vehicles. And so I've worked with financial institutions, nonprofit organizations mostly, but political candidates and others as well over the years. Started my own marketing and PR firm in Wisconsin, and then I ended up in Nebraska, where I worked for Voices for Children in Nebraska. I think you're familiar with them. They're a statewide nonprofit organization that works for children's issues. And,
very good organization. Aren't they connected with the national organization, Children's Defense Fund or something like that?
They're connected with a number of them, especially Kids Count, which is a project of the Annie E. Casey Foundation.
Oh, okay.
And I think we'll talk a little bit more about my work there later on, but they're doing some great things. And so I spent some time with them. And then I spent some time with the United States Navy as their Director of Public Affairs on a regional level. And I always joke that selling recruiting in a time of war is about as easy as selling Democrats in Nebraska sometimes. So, but it was a good experience for me as well. And then I ended up at the party.
Oh, very good. We're happy to have you. You have a wealth of experience. Wow.
Thank